Sometime later, not right away, Marguerite said, Bishop Dingman's on the phone. And I remember that I was upstairs, and I could tell this wasn't just this. He really wanted to talk. So there was no chair in the room, and I remember kneeling down with my hands on the top of the elbows on the dresser for this really long phone conversation. And it wasn't like, why aren't you taking this job, blah, 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 all that. It was really loving, constant and patient dialogue. He wanted to dialogue. What did I think about my observations of going out there and talking to Laverne Wingert, Father Wingert, and what was, and asked me questions about rural life and all that, and then told me to take my time, but he'd like me to reconsider this and all. And of course, I'm asking myself, is this real? You know, here, this is a bishop calling me and just wanting to talk about things. And I'm from Dubuque, and I'm not used to bishops like that. This was a new thing. So I did what he said. You know, I thought about it, prayed about it, and a week or so later, Sister Myra Mosel, who was kind of his right-hand woman, came by to continue the dialogue. Well, the end result was I took the job and came. But so from I share that personal experience to just underline the thing of he just was not your ordinary CEO. This thing of human relationships and respecting people, and in relationship discerning the Spirit of God. That was a reality. So that's for this point. Thank you. Ron Roseman.
Okay. Well, this is kind of a coming home for me. The chance to see Chuck and Marguerite is great because it's been 10 years. And see our families, we have 3 sons, and one of our sons is here, Daniel. He and his wife are farming with us, and we have one little grandson who's about a year old now, and his name is Xavier Francis. So the farm legacy will go on, Chuck. And then we have 2 other sons, David, who used to work here for ICCI at one time for 1 year. He now works for Land Stewardship Project in Minnesota. And we're happy to say that at age 31, he's going to get married next year for the first time. And then our last son, Mark, he's leading a really exciting life. He works for the State Department in DC in the Office of Global Food Security. He's 27. And now he's doing a little 4-month stint in Mexico City. Thank goodness as a private contractor, because he would not be being paid with USDA learning about trade, but he's trying to focus on organic. So that's where our kids are at, Chuck and Marguerite. I'm anxious to hear about yours after the meeting. I got to tell you a little story about my first encounter with Bishop Dingman. I was 30 years old. In 1980, didn't have any children yet, but see, in our little parish of St. Boniface, Westphalia, we had a little rift in the community with our pastor, Father Mike Sims, at the time, and the local fire department. I don't know if any of you remember this at all, but it did hit the Des Moines Register in the Chuck Offenberger column that went after that. And it was because the fire department wanted to serve alcohol at all of their events without a liquor license on the church property. They've been doing it in the past, why not in the future, right? Well, Father Mike didn't like that idea, and so both parties planted their feet. Lo and behold, the event went off, and Bishop Dingman, who never got mad very often, but when he did, look out. That was my opinion. He came down hard on our parish and said, I'm putting you on probation, no pastor. Well, a lot of us in the community were really deeply troubled and hurt by this, of course. So myself and one of the older gentlemen in the community went down to Portsmouth to visit with Father Vince Rozanke, who was pastor. We begged and pleaded, please, we don't quite deserve all this, do we? And Father Vince agreed, well, if the bishop says it's okay, I'll help you out. And the bishop okayed it. And that was my first experience. And then as time went on and the farm crisis years really started getting bad, which was, 83, 84, 85, 86. We were also facing that, not to the extent that some of the farmers like Bob in this room here tonight, like Bob Sullivan were. But we had a lot of struggles then. I was only 30 years old. My dad died that spring. My dad was a wonderful man. He was born in 1907. So I had the chance to grow up learning how to farm in the 60s yet with Belgian draft horses, which was really cool. And I learned how to thrash and drove a team of horses when I was 6. So I learned the old ways of farming as well as, the new ways of farming by, attending Iowa State University in ag, and ended up with a degree in biology, which that all plays with this later on in my life of being an organic farmer. But what I want to say about Bishop Dingman is this. I've always thought of him as a prophet. If there was ever a man that I've had the chance to know that I could say was a prophet, Bishop Dingman certainly comes the closest, I feel. And Frank, bless Frank for this. I don't know where you found these 3 speeches.
I can't believe I still had them too.
They are.
Chuck, you had something to do with that.
Those.
I gave
The
you.
text
Yes, that's how it
of
happened.
3
I got
Bishop
to hear
Dingman speeches
one of those speeches at the rally in
is what is
Ames
being
in
referred to.
'85. I was there. I never heard the other 2. But I finally read these just this morning to prepare for tonight. And I read them and I followed along, and credit goes to Greg Cusack too. And I wonder what happened to Greg. Does anybody know?
Yeah, he's living right on the river in Bellevue, Iowa.
Okay.
I see him every rare once in a while.
But when I read these speeches, I just could see Bishop Dingman with this oratorical voice and this prophetic ministerial voice, slowly reading these lines, and I felt very much taken back to that time and very moved. And I would honestly say that these are 3 of the most important documents about farming, social justice, and farming issues in the since the Depression years. And that says a lot, but I think we need to find a way to maybe get these papers.
Man, I think they're good, but love is blinding you, brother.
Well,
I think,
no, I don't think it is.
Okay,
I don't think it is. When I get the chance to talk about what's in there and compare it to today, then I hope I can make that a little more clear. I won't say much more for now, but Bishop Dingman's humility, and he always made you feel so welcome. Like one time he was in Westphalia and we had David and Daniel, you were little. He said, I want to come out and see you kids after church. Have a bowl of soup with you. And that's what he did. And we still got the pictures of him holding David and you. David, I think, was like 84 or something. You were about 1 year old. And I remember you guys sitting on the couch and he was reading to you. It's just pulls at your heartstrings. So, the last thing I will say is that at Bishop Dingman's funeral, I got a chance to talk to a reporter from the Des Moines Register, and he asked me what I thought of Bishop Dingman, and my first words were, he was a man of the people, and it ended up being the headline in the Register. So I felt pretty proud of having that opportunity to give my thoughts about him.
Thank you. I might interject just a couple of things that come to mind. In about 1976-77, there was a formation of a Peace and Justice Committee here in Des Moines. And it actually included a lot of people who are in this room. It was Barb Hans was one of them, Phil Riley, who was the city attorney at the time, and a variety of other people. It was not simply some of the priests, but it was a social justice group, and we zoomed off in a lot of directions. And I ended up, after I was ordained about a year, and ended up, I think by default, being the chair of this thing. So many times I had the opportunity to visit with the bishop, who sometimes was with us in the meeting, but always stayed very much connected. And he would always, he would say, use me, use me. And always, I am behind you. The trust that he would put in so many of us in this room was just amazing. It was absolutely amazing, and I remember thinking about that because I didn't know what that guy was doing at that point. But that trust was there, and it was very powerful, incredibly powerful. We will shift gears, and Ron, you're loaded for bear right here. I would talk to us about the farm crisis, about the rural life issues, and Bishop Dingman's response to all of that.
Okay, thanks. I don't know where to begin, but back in those days, agriculture was in a great transition. Farm subsidies were created to try to help with low prices and oversupply way back after World War II. And that was because of nitrogen fertilizers and hybrids and all these higher yields we were getting. And all of this was starting to drive towards consolidation then already. And it was always government policy and industrial thinking that the farms had to go the same way as industry. And I'm going to read a quote here from, this was the one that Maria and I went to right before he had his stroke in February of '86. He was debating Michael Boje, the economist from Purdue University at Iowa State University. And it was, what does Christian theology have to do with the farm crisis? And here, this quote is worth reading, especially for you people under 20, or 30, or 40. In 1962, a similar government study indicated that although the exodus of agriculture in the past decade or longer has been large by almost any standard, it has not been large enough. This study, which was entitled An Adapted Program for Agriculture, was conducted by the Committee for Economic Development. The committee membership consisted of Ford Motor Company, Standard Oil, AT&T, and so on and so forth. And Bishop says, I have this document with me. It cannot be bought. It is an embarrassment to agribusiness, because this approach made it very clear that the values, lives, and communities of the family farmers were of less worth and less value than the technological innovations and opportunities for capital investment on the part of the corporations. The family farmer was forced to adapt to the needs of the corporate-dominated economy that cannot survive without growth. And this has meant that family farmers must leave their farms. And there really was sort of a plan to get, another place I read the quote, to get rid of around 3,800,000 farmers after World War II. Because of this, farmers were not considered consumers, good